And just like that, you've got the EMS show. Mike Verkest, Dr. Ratusani, back at it again. What's up, my friend?
Wow.
I know.
Wow, wow, wow. It is.
Like that,
it is.
You've got the EMS show. Mike Verkest,
Oh, sorry.
See, look at this rookie move shit already. Like, we're not 3 seconds into it.
We've been on this for 3 seconds and I fucked it up.
It's okay, buddy. We were just talking about strengths and weaknesses, weren't we?
Oh my God, we rolled into that so badly.
That's fine. What are you gonna do? It's what makes us us, right?
I have the YouTube or I have the Facebook page open over here, and there's a little delay, and you know how that goes.
And there's volume, and there's all kinds of other stuff, and it's okay. Yeah. Well, what's going on, my man?
Hey,
you've been in meetings all day.
Yes, I have.
Not as long as my 8.5 hour Zoom yesterday.
No, but I've been in meetings all day and meetings much of yesterday, and then worked a couple emergency department shifts the 2 days before that. So
how is things at the old emergency department? I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves. I know we're going to be talking, but busy?
Yeah. No, it's very quiet, Q word.
That's a good way to get smacked.
So,
I'm sure.
But yeah, exactly. No, things are, it's just great to be back, and it's great to be back on. It's great, for all 4 of our viewers right now. It's just,
Hey, man, you're not supposed to give it away like that.
Oh, well, there's a number there right on the Facebook page.
The 400 people that are watching.
That's right. It's 4,000.
There's 396 other people on Twitter that are watching right now. So
that's right.
Yeah, you're not counting those guys.
That's true. Yeah. That's very true. But no, I'm really excited that we are, some people heard our intro podcast, our little 7-minute intro. I'm just really excited to be back in the saddle and be doing this with you again and talking about EMS, talking about football and booze and
whatever,
but mostly about EMS.
Yeah, no, it's definitely so good. And, we've been working hard. We're planning on doing, since it's not going to make much sense today because it's not the second Thursday, but our plan, like we mentioned in the introduction podcast, is that we're going to try to get together and do a live on the second Thursday. And there's Jeff Jarvis. Let's see if I can get this thing to work here. Well,
there you go.
Well, hi.
Pavel does not want to talk about football, but for him, I will talk about Star Trek.
So that's the beauty. We'll talk a little bit about some diversity and some equity and some other kind of stuff like that here in a little bit, but it's the same thing. We'll talk about Star Trek. We'll talk about the book of Boba Fett. It's fine. We'll talk about everything.
Yes, we should talk about the book of Boba Fett.
Well, I know they got, I think they're up to 3 episodes that they got out right now.
4 dropped yesterday or this morning or something.
Yeah.
So I'm up to 3.
I knew it was something like that. So I don't know. The first one. I appreciated the story of him getting out of the Sarlacc pit. That was cool. That was kind of cool.
Have you watched the other 2?
No, I have not. So I'm not. That's why I'm not. I'm just like the little what you're getting from me right there. That's just like initial things, right? I have it needs time to get going. I don't think Mandalorian was much different. Just takes a little time.
Takes a little time. We'll have to get back to this because I have some thoughts after this last episode.
Okay. All right. Well, that's good.
Anyway.
What do you got in your cup tonight?
I have a dirty martini, as Pavel said. It is, but it's not your typical dirty martini. I think on a previous show that we don't talk about much, I had called it a Remley after Remley Crow.
That's right.
But it is a vodka dirty martini, but instead of olives, it is jalapeno.
Oh, I love that.
There's jalapeno brine, and then there's some pickled. It's pickled, sweetened, hot and sweet jalapeno brine, and hot and sweet jalapenos in there. So it's really good.
Okay, you went like the extra effort there. All I have is water tonight. That's not very exciting.
Yeah. Well, it was, it was for our, it's our second episode, but our first fullish episode. But yeah, we're going to try to do this every month so that you guys can try to pull in headlines and what's going on, and try to maybe occasionally have guests on the lives, but then also focus on producing at least one sort of more traditional podcast a month, and try to focus on actually getting a guest to talk about. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, that's just really going to be a focus for us is to get people on, right? I mean, you can only hear from these two jackasses so much, right? No offense.
Yeah. Or the jackass and Dr. Sani. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah. Or jackass Dr. Jarvis. Anyway, do you want to get to some EMS show headlines?
Let's do some headlines.
All right.
The EMS show headlines.
Okay, that is going to continue to crack me up for like months. You realize?
Well, we're trying to class up the joint around here, right? Let's get some stuff going and let's make it kind of fun and cool.
Well, the headline of the day is what? Oh my crying, the situation. Do we want to go back to that?
The situation.
Yeah. Should we talk about it?
Well, here's the thing. Yes, Jarvis loves the special effects. In fact, he said, "Oh my."
Special
effects. Yeah. So, I mean, it's been a while since we talked about the situation. And it's changed. And by the way, before we get into that, and since Jarvis is on here and a couple other people probably watching or will probably watch it. I mentioned that I was on like a 77-hour Zoom marathon meeting yesterday. So this is a consultant group from the East Coast. There was about 10 of them in this virtual thing that we were doing. And about 3:00 in the afternoon, one of them said, I got it. And he's like, and we were on a break, and he goes, I got it, Mike. And I said, oh, what do you got? He goes, podcast. He goes, I heard the podcast you guys did about the vaccines. And I said, really? He goes, I got to tell you, he goes, and he was a nurse and works in ICU. So not even EMS, right? I mean, he's a former field provider, but he's sort of moved on, and he does CAS accreditation site visits and all this stuff.
Right.
And he's like, the amount of misinformation on vaccines and all that, blah, blah, blah. He's like, it was rampant everywhere. And he's like, we were on vacation, me and my girlfriend, and we were on the beach. And he's like, I stumbled across the podcast or the video or whatever we did. That was alive, I think, or it didn't matter.
It was alive, and it was on the tubes of you.
Right, exactly. And I know Jarvis was on there. You were on there. I was on there. Who else did we have?
Hayden Smith
on both of those. And we did two, right? We did sort of a recap after things had been out. The first one we did was sort of on the initial rollout. Anyway, he was like, I have been sitting here all day listening to your voice. And he's like, it was just killing me. And then he finally realized that's what it was from. But anyway, I just wanted to say that even as recent as yesterday, the information and stuff that we provide on this platform that we take very seriously and is humble. There's a lot of jackassery and bullshit, and we do lots of fun stuff, but we have a real responsibility, I think, and I'm sure you agree with that too. Absolutely. To make sure that we're trying to get information out that is meaningful to people and have fun at the same time. But there are some topics that, like vaccines at the time, and I mean probably even still to some extent, but like it was just cool to hear that even as of yesterday, people just really appreciate sort of the straight talk.
That's great to hear. And even though Jeff was involved, that's great.
That's so good. He's been pretty quiet on there.
Yeah.
So anyway,
so that was, I mean, and that's why we want to keep doing this, right?
Yeah,
because
exactly.
we're egotistical assholes who like to talk all the time. And but the other piece, well, maybe me, I don't know. But the other piece is that we've had a good reception.
Yeah.
From the stuff that we've done, and things change and we end up things change, you do different things, and I'm super excited. And I do love Jeff Jarvis, by the way.
Yeah, he loves
Decided
it.
that the whole I've decided that the whole fake rivalry, and it was a fake rivalry, probably is a previous thing. So I do
For
love
sure.
Jeff Jarvis.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think we have I think we provide good information, and there's a segment of people that like the jackassery and like what we do, and that packages it in a way that makes it more interesting and entertaining instead of just sort of a talking heads video or something.
Yeah. Yeah. Agreed. But anyway, so Omicron. So
Oh
this
my
is-
crying. Yeah.
Oh my crying. All right. So been pretty interesting. I think we've learned a lot. And I think we're still learning lots about this. So I heard something the other day that, like, for whatever reason, it really put it into perspective a little bit for me. So thank God. I hope you guys are staying safe out there. And if you've happened to catch it, well, sorry about that. And I hope you're doing all right. But it was an interesting comparison. And it was, yes, people aren't getting as sick, right? So especially when we're talking about people hospitalized and there's sort of the strain on the system, all this kind of stuff. So yes, they're not getting as sick. I think most people can probably agree with that. That doesn't seem to be too controversial. So people are like, well, why are the hospitals busy then, right? And so this is the part that just sort of, you know how you just hear something and you just go, oh, well, that makes sense. And this is one of those moments for me, even though it seems probably intuitive to everybody else, was that true, not as sick, also true 10 times more. Right. So yes, so the segment of the sick people might be smaller, but overall we've overwhelmed probably more than we ever have, just from the sheer numbers. And for whatever reason, like I said, that just made sense to me. Is that kind of what you're seeing at your shop? Does that seem to be reasonable?
I think that's very reasonable explanation. We have a greater number of people who are sick, quite a bit more, and as a result, even though 1% of 1,000 is still 10 people, versus 10% of 100, that's still 10 people.
Yeah.
So it does appear that Omicron does not make you as sick, and it's probably a combination of things. I think there's some data that shows that it seems to be more nasopharyngeal liking than deep respiratory tract, and that appears to be part of it. And then the other part is, why am I hearing music?
Because I got some background music on.
All right.
Yeah, just let it
And
flow,
then the other
buddy.
part is, again,
It's the EMS show.
I'm like, music is vaccination, right? So vaccination, people who get sick but are vaccinated are just not getting as sick.
Yeah.
And I think one of the other questions I hear a lot is, well, if vaccinated people are getting it, then why
get vaccinated?
It's not working.
Yeah.
And there's two answers. One, in my hospital, 85% of the people who are hospitalized are unvaccinated. So even though there's a larger chunk of people, who are vaccinated who are getting this, the people who are getting sick are more likely to be unvaccinated. So that's one piece. And even though vaccinated people are getting it, the closest data that we've seen, primarily from Israel, small regional medical journal called the New England Journal.
Oh yeah, that's yeah. Okay.
Again, it's regional.
Yeah, very regional.
They're one of the papers that they had talk about the current the Omicron and vaccination, still 70% effective, still 70% less likely to get infected. And then in terms of hospitalization and death, it's like still in the 90s in terms of its effectiveness. And I've seen a lot of chatter like, well, this is a terrible vaccine all of a sudden. But the goal for the vaccine was 50% effective preventing infection. And 70% effective preventing infection is actually still really good. And we have many flu seasons when we are not that good with it. So,
Yeah.
you know, that's some of the stuff, but it's still the overwhelming. The numbers are taking a strained medical system and crushing it. And the difference between this and like 2 years ago, by the way, I feel like I did in terms of my cadence of like meetings
Mm-hmm.
and shit that I have to write and stuff. It feels as close to like March or April of 2020. You're just picking a different song every time. It feels as close to March or April of 2020 as it ever has. But I think the other stressor is because this is so much easier to catch, staffing is just getting crushed.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to say. I mean, I know everybody. If you're watching this right now, there is probably you are seeing this, right? And I'll give you this isn't EMS related, but I'll just talk about my son Caleb. Then and the people that are watch. I talk about my kids all the time, but we'll talk about Caleb specifically. So he works at a local manufacturing place. He does shipping and receiving, and they've been dropping like flies. People are just getting sick and they're going out. Well, Caleb started catching little sniffles, a little sore throat. And so they sent him home. I mean, it was the right thing to do for sure. But along with staffing dropping, there are a number of people that are just getting a cold, right? Or it's flu season and they're getting that. And his problem was he couldn't get a friggin' test anywhere. So he literally missed 7 days of work because he couldn't come back till he had a negative test, right? Or his symptoms went away, which it ended up being about a tie. By the time his PCR came back, he was already feeling better and it was negative. And there's nothing in place to sort of help with that. Right. And so, I mean, he's 23 years old and screwed. So, I mean, thankfully, at least us in the EMS, we've got some provisions, hopefully within our employer that'll help us out. We got vacation and we've got sick time and things like that we can use, but not everybody's got that. And so, it's just been a disaster for people. I mean, I'm curious for you guys that are watching, throw it in the chat. What are you guys seeing for staff? I mean, are you seeing, what are you seeing? You have people out, what's going on where you're at? I mean, like to see that. So,
I think when I look at kind of the hospital, we've got EDs that are understaffed and they're boarding patients. So that's a problem, but staffing's crushing the whole healthcare system top to bottom and, front to back. I mean, the volume, the problem, one of the big problems is not so much the volume coming into the ED. It's that there's no volume going out of the hospital.
Oh,
because
acting like cordwood.
Yeah. Because why? One, there's poor staffing at skilled nursing facilities. And so it's taking a lot longer to get patients who would normally be transferred out to a skilled nursing facility. And then, what I'm curious because I haven't had a chance to talk to my other national colleagues about this, but we've had a number of dialysis places close because they're understaffed. And as a result, like hospitals are holding on to dialysis patients that would be able to go home because they can't get a dialysis chair anywhere.
Yeah.
Some of them are being like, a couple of them are like insisting that they be discharged and then they show up in the emergency department 3 times a week. But we're seeing this weird like dialysis thing. So I don't know if other people are seeing that.
Interesting.
But, yeah. And I think too, the problem again is not, I think PPE still works. I don't know that we're getting it from our patients.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you.
I think we're getting it from like being in the community. And, so I'll tell you another piece. This whole thing made me decide not to go to NAMSP this year. And I texted you like Saturday
or Sunday.
And I'm like, why do I have a stomach ache about going to NAMSP? You're like, because you're going to get COVID. I'm like, I don't know I'm going to get COVID, and I don't think anybody did. But it really and part of it was that we were hot and heavy, and I was having meetings every day about things like, should we take patient, non-transports and this and that. And Are we going to get into like a big crisis while I'm gone? And the other for me was sort of the optics of like, you all need to be really super careful, but I'm going to a conference now. Right. And I think I could be totally safe in the conference, but I knew I was going to go out to the bar with Jeff Jarvis.
Oh,
So,
of course.
you know, that to me, so that was my thought process. I don't think anybody was right or wrong for the decision they made.
Yeah.
And it broke my heart to not go to NAMSP this year.
I know.
But I mean, you heard from,
And
I was really sad.
oh, for sure.
And but what was it? So where I'm going to though is somebody else that was going to go there with me, who was like part of our Clackamas County crew.
Hmm.
I was like, well, you know, I was like, what about eating dinner? And like, we should try to eat outside. I don't really want to eat inside, you know, and do you really want to go sit inside with me? And he's like, well, I trust you. And I think that's part of the problem is we trust friends, but
Yeah.
this Omicron shit is not very trustworthy.
No.
So even though our friends are, I'm sure, doing all they can, the reality is like this person has kids in school.
Yeah. My mother-in-law lives with us, right?
Yeah.
And-
My mother-in-law lives with us.
Yeah.
So
yeah. It just makes it tough. I mean,
anyway.
yeah. So, but speaking of that, I'm a little out of order here, but make sure you go to covidtests.gov and get your 4 tests. Order that shit up.
Yeah. And I just
Anyway.
ordered some tests from a company called iHealth.
Yeah. As did I.
They're still taking orders. And,
Yeah.
And
they're pretty cheap. They're like $13.
yeah.
But that was before the covidtest.gov thing or whatever. But yeah, I mean, I placed an order on the 11th and it hasn't even shipped yet from iHealth.
I already got one shipment from them and I just ordered
Bullshit.
another one.
Bullshit.
Yeah.
So so I know it killed you to not go to NAMSP. Thank you. It's one of those words. It's a long word. I know Jarvis went. I hope you guys had a good time down there. We saw some pics and that is awesome. Hey, Rob Lawrence is joining us. Thanks for being on there. Nathan Smith, Ed, everybody that's jumped on. Thank you guys so much. It's great to see you. And there's Amber.
And I believe
Hello?
those of you who are listening to the podcast will have heard Rob Lawrence's voice, correct?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's a different Rob.
Oh, different Rob? Never mind.
Yeah. This Rob Lawrence with Prodigy. And my favorite part about him, so we've never actually connected in person, like, you know, the way most relationships start on social media and all that kind of stuff. But guess what? When I started getting all into my Formula One shit, boom. That just sealed our connection and our friendship forever. You know, we're sending messages. Are you gonna watch the race? And what about Lewis Hamilton? And anyway, we're getting off in the weeds. That's what we do. That's what the EMS show is all about, buddy.
That's right. Well, you have 2 guys with bad ADHD.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, go
You know,
Max.
I did take an Adderall today. But it's all
Did you? I wish I could have had one. Yeah, I would love, but I'm going to show this comment. So for those of you that don't know, I just kind of throw it out there. Rob Lawrence does this amazing piece called, I think it's On the Escalator. And it's just a video interview from the top to the bottom. It's like 32 seconds long and they are phenomenal. So keep it up, bro. I love it. Very, very genius. Golly, someday I'll be on that thing. But yeah, you're definitely going to want to go and check that out. So back to NAMSP. Did you see how I got it out that time? I know there was a giant discussion, huge topic there about diversity, inclusion, and equity.
Yep.
And I know you were super bummed about not being down there to be able to talk about that. I put a post out on the Facebook page about I'm in a course right now called Multiculturalism in Emergency Services for my bachelor's program in EMS. And yeah, so what do you think you missed down there? Like what were you hoping to go check out and learn?
Well, there were a number of sessions, and hopefully we can get some of the session leaders, some of the folks who gave those sessions on as a guest to talk about some of these issues. The keynote speaker was Lieutenant Quentin Smith of the, and he talked about the
Chicago, right?
Chicago, the Black Fire Brigade program.
Yep.
But the idea that they reach into these communities of color to directly recruit folks who are interested in fire and EMS. And it was, again, heartbroken. I couldn't see it. Heard it was quite a moving discussion. I've met him via Zoom because the National Registry has a task force on inclusion, diversity, and equity, the IDEA task force, and I'm a member of that task force. And COAMPS is working on some of those issues also. So that I think was a big topic there, and it's a topic that's near and dear to my heart because I'm often the only brown guy in the room. As Scottbourne said to me the other day.
You're the only brown guy in this room right here.
I am. That's right.
Yeah.
And I don't even, as an Indian, I mean, there's a lot of Indian doctors out there, right? Like every doctor on television is Indian, pretty much.
Okay, fair enough.
But it's important, and EMS is the only government agency that can go into somebody's house without a search warrant. And having EMS look like you probably helps.
You mean good looking, bald, overweight? Like, white guy, white male?
Yes. You know what I mean? So
yeah. I mean, it's everything. So one of the two things I thought of this. So when I was an EMT, just into EMS, working on the ambulance. Well, it might have been down the road a little bit, but I worked with my partner was a paramedic. She was a female. She's a former gymnast. She's literally 4 feet 7 inches tall. But when we walked into a house, who do you think everyone talked to?
Big white guy.
Big white guy. And I mean, it happened every single time. And I got pretty good at going, she's actually the one in charge. So, you might want to talk to her. But I mean, I was guilty. I was so guilty of that same sort of behavior. And I'll never forget this. I'm just throwing it out there. I'm so embarrassed. I'm so embarrassed by this. But so this was 1994. I'm working a wheelchair van. All right. So I'm carting people back and forth and doing whatever. Well, I had a guy in the back. It wasn't looking very good, right? There ain't a lot of monitoring going on, right? When I'm driving the wheelchair van, the dude's tied into the wheelchair rack or whatever. And I just sort of realized that something ain't exactly right. So I knew there was a substation coming up. I'm like, I'm just going to stop. And like, I knew there was a ambulance substation off the side of the highway and like a sort of a strip mall thing. It's not really strip mall, but it doesn't matter. It was a little substation.
Yep.
So I pull in, I get out, knock on the door, and a female answered. And I said, this is what I said. And I shit you not, I'm embarrassed. I said, hey, are any of the guys around?
Oh, how scandalous.
I mean, oh my God. And she's like, what do you need? It was literally a female crew, all female crew.
There you go. We have one of those at Clack Fire.
Of course we do.
I know.
Yeah.
Love it.
But I'm just saying, like, anyway, so everybody's doing it. So I'm learning a ton of it in my class, and I'm hoping I can share some of that as we get going through here, because I think these are the important things that we're going to talk about, because it makes a difference.
So a couple of things. So we did a session on this for the COA's conference. We did a virtual conference. Yeah. A credit con.
Oh, that's right.
A credit con, but for some reason I was like a credit con. But we did a session on this, and what was really interesting is, despite the fact that there's a lot of data, like workplace data, that shows that having a more diverse workplace is more productive.
Yeah.
But clearly there's a lot of healthcare data that shows that patients are more receptive if there are other healthcare providers that look like them around. Despite all that stuff, and talking about like strategies around diversity, we got like 95% like, oh, this is great stuff. I didn't know this stuff. And then there were 2 people who were like this was the worst. Why are you why are you bringing politics into accreditation? And Sonny is the absolute worst.
Oh boy.
So hopefully one of you is watching or listening right now. So yeah. And then the other thing I want to share is a tweet that actually got tweeted by a friend of mine today, which kind of made me a little verklempt.
Oh.
But have you guys watched Encanto, the Disney movie? It's good. It's really good. We watched it last night.
Okay.
And it takes place in Colombia. So the music's written by Lin-Manuel Miranda, who wrote Hamilton. Obviously, I'm a big fan. But it was really beautiful and wonderful, and it's a very Latin culture. It's really good. And somebody had tweeted about how their child saw somebody that looked like them as a hero in a movie, and it really moved them. And then my friend Puneet Gupta, who's an EMS physician in LA, said, "Representation matters. I didn't realize how important it was until I finally saw Indian leaders in emergency medicine at MD 59 amongst many."
Oh,
It's like, oh,
that's so cool. And you know what? And that's exactly why we're going to talk about this shit. I mean, we just got to get it out there. And you know what? I mean, you have, I mean, and you know this, and the people that are watching, I mean, it's so great to see most of the old crew sort of back on here watching with us. But I mean, we don't shy away from this stuff. You know, I put myself out there. I'm the white guy that everyone talks about. Like, that's me, right? And you know, you have helped me sort of grow in that and become just more aware. And that was really one of the first things that I read in this textbook for my class is like, and it was really a post I did, which not that you were going to see it because it's on Canvas, but I mean, I talked about you and how you sort of gently bring me along with this, and just to be a little bit aware, because no one seeks out to be, you know, right, to not include people. Well, that's not true. I would say people don't do it necessarily on purpose, right? It's just they're just not self-aware of those biases that they don't even know they have. And I think that's where you have helped me a lot, and where I learn more every time we talk about it. So like anytime you as the co-host of this show want to talk about diversity, inclusion, equity, whatever, we're going to, because I think
and you know, I think we're going to try to get some folks on who talk about this stuff better than I do. You know, we've had Jamie Kennel on talk a little bit about it, bring him back around, but some other stuff.
Yeah.
But you know, my view on this is that most people don't know what they don't know. And so I think about like, if you say something that you've always said, and I'm like, you know, really that's not a great thing to say.
I did one of those. I don't remember what it was, but remember I did that?
I remember you did that. And I wrote back, and I'm like, you probably shouldn't say that. And you're like, oh my God, I didn't even think about that. and because you're used to it. And it's all about, you know, when you're in the system that's kind of used to things, that you know, you don't understand how things you can say or do are hurtful to people and create barriers. That's the other piece. Yeah. Whenever somebody asks me, where are you from? My response is Detroit. And they go, where are you really from? But the message that they're sending is, well, you're not really from here. You're not really an American because you look different. And you've heard my story about the deaf person, right? Yeah. So who couldn't understand me because of my accent. But I think that the healthy way to look at this is not that is from the end in mind. There are worse outcomes because of inequities.
Yep.
So how do we fix that? Yeah. Yes. My sister, my English is very good. Yeah. That happened like just a couple weeks ago.
Yeah. And that's why if you listen to the opening of our podcast, we took that soundbite out.
That's right. But I really try to approach this from nobody's. Is there a segment of the population that's openly racist and not shy about it? Absolutely. Are they wackos that most people aren't going to get much? I hope so much, but the system is still skewed and trying to just make people understand that it's not purposeful, but it's still damaging to people, and try to make people less defensive about it. Yeah. Because I think that's where you get into trouble, where you're like, you say the system is racist. It actually is, but what people hear is you're a racist, and you're no. Yeah. Although I'm a racist and I'm a sexist. I'll admit it. Well, because I have biases. I have biases that I work really hard to overcome. But yeah. So
Jarvis. I gotta share that one.
Yeah. Jarvis once tried to tell me, see, now he's gonna make it a rivalry again.
Well, he said he was the last to know about that. We weren't doing that anymore. So
Jarvis tried to tell me once that Texas A&M had a bigger stadium.
Yeah.
They don't.
Yeah. Anyway, well,
should we talk about what's new in EMS?
You want to talk about it?
Let's talk about it.
Let's see what the guy says here. I don't know.
What's hot in EMS?
All right.
So beautiful.
I know. It's so good. It's so good. It's so good. What is hot in EMS? Well, it was a nice little segue from our discussion about NAMSP and how you were heartbroken not to be there and it made you sick and the whole 9 yards. But there was some really cool stuff in the form of an airway compendum that was sort of debuted, right? That was look at that. You got your hot hands on one of those, don't you?
Finally came to my house. The folks who went to NAMSP were able to get it, but it came to my house finally.
Yeah, I know. I saw the photo. I think Jarvis shared it. And I was like, man, that'd have been cool to be there. Get that.
So one thing I noticed when I got this is, I'm going to hold this really close to my camera, but that font is really freaking tiny.
Well, and it's even tinier because of the way I have the screen configured right now.
Yeah.
Anyway.
True. But my understanding is that font, that was, they just changed the cover of PEC to this new cover, because these colors are what the NAMSP website is now. Okay. So they just changed it, but they didn't have time to change the font. So the March issue of PEC will be a font that even old people like me and Jarvis can read. Jarvis and I are the same age.
Are you?
Yeah. Aren't we, Jeff?
So, we're talking about, inclusion and stuff. And look, I totally agree with that.
Jeff Sigler writes that the font is ageist.
Yeah, it's definitely ageist.
This is amazing. This is absolutely amazing. And, you got to start out. This was, you got to start out with like, where did this come from? How did this happen? That sort of thing. So, first off, NAMSP has a number of position statements, and I actually had the honor of serving as the chair of the Standards and Clinical Practices Committee for 4 years. And that was sort of my entree into the NAMSP board. And that was like how old's my daughter? 21. So that was like in 2001 when I started on that role. And included in those were some position statements about airway management and that sort of thing. And I think as a combination of those position statements needing to be revitalized and redone, and the vision of the NAMSP president, Mike Levy, as well as Henry Wang and Dave Cohn, what was born was this entire issue of basically a supplement to PEC that is focused completely on your pre-hospital airway program and nuts to bolts. What should it look like? What should it be like? And really, I can't say enough about it. I haven't had a chance to read through the whole thing, but because there's a lot here. It is, how many pages long is it? It is 136 pages of airway stuff.
It's so good. So can we just sort of, one of the things that I want to do is I don't want to assume that people know what a position paper is, and I don't want to assume that people understand like why do they exist. So maybe you could walk us through a little bit. And I know we've got a few physicians in the crowd tonight that are watching, so feel free to chime in on the chat. But why does an organization do a position paper?
So NAMSP has always done what they call position statements, and then what we call sort of position resource documents. But the idea was that the organization took an official position on some type of topic. And whether that's a clinical topic, like what is a proper airway management program look like, what is a contract for a medical director look like, or sometimes to political topics. But the idea with most of our position statements is we as an organization feel that this is the clinical practice that is most appropriate. Prior to this compendium, one of the most downloaded articles in all of PEC history was the position statement and the position resource document on spinal motion restriction.
Yeah.
So that was where the organization took a position, a formal position that is NAMSP's as the world's experts in EMS medicine, that not every patient that's ever been in a blunt trauma needs to be on a backboard or even in a collar.
How scandalous.
How incredibly scandalous.
You were waiting for it, but I didn't do it.
I was waiting for it. It's pretty scandalous.
It is pretty. I mean, I can hit the scandalous thing.
Hit the button. I mean,
All
people
right,
give the people what they want.
I know everyone loves that. So here it is. I mean,
oh, how scandalous.
I know I feel better.
Do you feel better? Well, especially since you kind of loaded it up, and I thought you were going to say it. Talk about it.
I know.
So when I was chair of typically it's the organization that approves it, but they have a committee, the Standards and Clinical Practices Committee, that is the primary clearinghouse that works on these position statements.
Yeah.
Although any committee in NAMSP can work on a position statement, like the HEMS committee has written a couple statements around like medical direction of helicopter emergency medical services or appropriate use of emergency medical services, that sort of thing. But the S&P committee is the one that does the majority of the work on these things. And like I said, the spinal motion restriction was one. When I was 100 years ago, when I was like a fellow, I wrote a position statement about stroke care and using stroke scale. Actually, this was before stroke scale. So even learning about like how to identify stroke and notifying stroke centers, those sorts of things, that position statement has been updated multiple times. We had position statements around AEDs and police use, all kinds of stuff like that. So it's basically the official position around some topic, usually clinical.
Okay, well that makes sense. And I'm assuming that when you did that stroke one, it was stone tablets.
Yeah,
stone tablets.
Pretty much.
Yeah. Or you used your Palm Pilot to sort of work on it when you weren't at a computer.
Funny thing is, I did have a Palm Pilot then when I did that.
I had a Palm Pilot too, like the actual Palm Pilot.
I did too. And then I had a Trio. Did you ever have a Trio?
No, look, buddy, not as fancy as you back in the day.
I'm sorry.
I think I got you now. I mean, I think we're on technology. We're pretty squared away. Although you got a pretty fancy computer coming.
My fancy computer's going to be here next week. So
I know it's very exciting. You know the people that are watching this, we're in the squirrels, Eden. But is there not a better feeling? And Jarvis, man, I know you will agree with this, but there is not a. It's not the best feeling, but there's not. It's pretty high, top 5 feelings when you push the order button on a new computer and you're sitting there and you know they're freaking putting that shit together, man, and your computer's being built and you're just waiting for them to ship. Like that is some good shiznit right there, man. Yeah,
it is.
Yeah,
and my computer got just shipped today.
The IPAC. I had an IPAC. Was it IPAC or was it Compaq? Remember Compaq computers? I think it might have been Compaq. I'm just saying.
There's Compaq too. Yeah.
Anyway. Okay.
So Amber put on there that Pete builds his own.
Yeah, some people do.
So here's the problem. Way squirrel, right?
Way squirrel.
Graphics cards are so expensive right now.
Yeah.
Because they're being bought up to do Bitcoin mining that you can buy an entire computer for what it takes to buy a GPU on like the open market.
Yeah, exactly. It's ridiculous. Anyway. All right, so full circle.
People want to know how to get this.
Yeah. So, and we did a little research for you guys. That's what we do here at the EMS show. So, I'm willing to bet that some of you that are watching probably don't have that book that Ritu has. And let me tell you, there's a super easy way to do that. All you got to do is join NAMSP, and then magically, like fairy dust, stuff shows up in your mailbox. Right? I mean, that's
like this.
Just like that. However, for the rest of us lackeys, by the way, I just realized my membership expired in December and I did not renew it. Shit. So I got to get on that. I got to get on that. But listen, this is how you can find it. Go to namsp.org, and the first little section there, you will say, "Hey, here's the compendium. Click here to get it," and it will bring you to this. So these, do you want to explain to them what these things are that we're looking at here?
But first off, too, most of pre-hospital emergency care, you have to be a subscriber to read. This is open access. So NAMSP felt that this was so important that you did not need to be a subscriber to read these things. So yeah, you need to you go there and download these. So the individual papers are all downloadable for free.
And that's what we're looking at here.
And that's what he's looking at. Yeah.
Yep. So it looks like the first one. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, you just kind of want to run. You want me to run through what we got there?
Yeah, that'd be great.
I mean, we can kind of read the titles of everything, but it really hits like all facets of an airway program.
Yeah.
And I think that the message really is like, this is not a one-off. This is not about just getting a tube in a hole. This is a program. And as Jeff has taught me, actually, this is, you can make or break your patients and on this very thing. And so it's not just like teaching people to intubate or anything. It really is all of the components and things we think about in airway management in EMS. And so it talks about like, what should your education program look like?
Yeah.
What should your quality management program look like? And then it even gets into topics like pediatric airway management, cardiac arrest airway management. Modaya is one of the authors on that. Should you do RSI? And if you do RSI, what does that mean? And really, I think probably the best paper in the whole piece is called Pre-Hospital Drug Assisted Airway Management and an NAMSP Position Statement. So the drug assisted, that really is the the best article in the whole thing, and would really recommend that you read that multiple times.
So it's super weird that you would mention that. I'm trying to find it. Did I already pass it? I know I saw it. There it is. Nope. There it is. Pre-hospital drug assisted airway management. This one right here.
Yeah.
So if I
Really?
click it, it's going to open up in another window. But here's the point. And look how many views that one has, by the way. 2,817. Shoot, that's I mean, you're tripling up on all these other ones. So is that you? Have you been reading the paper you helped on the whole time? You just keep clicking on it?
Jeff and I have been clicking back and forth on it repeatedly. That's exactly right. But no, some guy named Jarvis was the lead author. Some guy named Sonny is the guy at the end, which I took to mean that I was the senior author.
Yeah. That's so funny. But so here's a question for you though. So there's all this information. So let's say I'm EMS training officer Mike Verkest. Weird.
Which you are.
Is there, so I see all these resources there. I personally have not gone on there and looked at this, although just because just haven't.
Even though your medical director sent it to you a week and a half ago.
It's sitting there. It's okay, man. It's doing okay.
I haven't read all of it either.
So where the rubber meets the road for me is there, what can EMS training officer Mike Verkest glean from? Is there a way? Is there information in here that helps me put this into play and helps me get this into my system? Is there is there a recommended way to get this sort of going in our system? I know it's not a one-person job, but is there that kind of resource there that says, look, if you find yourself in this position where you need more whatever piece of this is how you would implement these things in your system? That makes sense.
Yeah, I think that there's great information on the education front about adult learning principles and how you teach this stuff correctly.
Yeah.
Talks about credentialing and continued education, and how do you take evidence that continues to evolve? Because we're doing a study right now where our agency is in what's called the PAC trial. We've talked a lot about the PART trial in the past, which looked at airway management for cardiac arrest, and the PAC trial is doing the same thing for trauma. And this stuff changes. And one joke might be that this is already out of date because it's already in print, right? But so they talk about how do you look at new evidence?
Yeah.
But I think from an airway, like if you're EMS training officer Mike Verkest, I think this provides both, like this is the training stuff. I think the quality management stuff in here, written by our friend Veer, other brown guy in the room.
I thought he was in here. Maybe I didn't.
Is he? I did
not.
not.
Maybe I didn't see him.
Yeah. Written by Veer, he wasn't the only one, but he was the lead author. How do you build your quality program around this? And we have talked about like revamping our quality program in our county, and we've been waiting for this document to come out so that we can look at the recommendations.
Yeah.
There's stuff on peds. I think every agency really struggles with what to do with peds.
Yeah.
So I think number one, EMS training officer Mike Verkest, you got to read it.
Great.
Actually, what you need to read it, but if you're EMS training officer, not Mike Verkest, but somebody else who's medical director maybe isn't an NAMSP member and isn't board certified in EMS, which I now am.
Congrats on that.
Then you take this to them too and say, hey, you need to look at this.
Yeah.
But there's so much in here. And I think reading the comments, I think Jeff hit the nail on the head. These position statements will drive and define what the standard of care is.
Yeah. So
if your EMS agency isn't following this, then you're not doing the standard care.
Damn. So with that, I know you have some other thoughts. So I want to get to Ratu's hot medical director take. Are you ready for that?
Reduce hot medical director take.
I love that.
The damn production of the show is just through the roof.
The production is amazing.
We spared no expense.
It's amazing.
Yeah. So give us your hot medical director take on this airway stuff.
I think the Airway Compendium is a seminal moment in EMS medicine. It has put down in one issue that the shit we do is medicine. It's not public safety. It's not load and go. It's not run. It is about taking care of patients. And the fact is that the things we do matter. And as we've all learned, if we do them badly, it harms the patient. If we do them well, that's helpful to the patient.
Yeah.
And the most important thing you can do is to get this stuff right, to get your patient intubated, if you choose to intubate them, without hypoxia, without peri-intubation cardiac arrest, without peri-intubation hypotension. Don't load this person in the back and run to the hospital and try to do it while going around the Terwilliger curves. You need to stop, take your pulse, take a deep breath, give your patient 3 minutes of deep breaths, and get this stuff done in a calm, patient-centric, medical-centric manner, and not be worried about my 7 minutes or 9 minutes on the scene. That's what I'm talking about. And this drives that home. The shit we do is medicine. That's my hot take.
That was pretty damn hot. I mean, that was. I'm ready to run through a wall right now for that.
Outstanding.
Like, that's good. That's exactly what I wanted.
Love it.
So, but we have to be off the scene in 10 minutes on a trauma, don't we?
That's right.
Okay, that's tongue in cheek for some. Well, we have some pretty sophisticated listeners. That's probably going to fall on deaf ears. I think they know that's not true. But it's still pretty much the dogma that's out there, right?
We fight it every day.
Yeah.
And we fight it in our own agencies, right?
For sure.
I mean, it's not, we how many times have we had a Zoom? We're like, no, just next time, just stop and get the airway done.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's just like everything that we do. I mean, what I saw, I can't remember what it was. It's like formulating in my brain, but there was a story that I saw that the cure for what was scurvy. The cure for scurvy was known 200 years before people started doing it. And so, and again, I've lost track of the, what they were using that to as like this little bridge to get to their point. But it was like, when we start saying 10-minute scene times aren't really a thing always, that's hard to hear for people, because that's not what they're hearing, right? And that creates this tension. And anyway, it's gonna take time. I mean, look at the backboards. It's another perfect example, right? I mean, if you're from a semi-sophisticated system, and I'm not talking, I'm not naming names, but like they're still doing it, right? Because that's what they've always done. And maybe there's a milk carton medical director that's not paying attention. I mean, I don't know. It's just
right.
It's gonna take time.
When they go to the hospital, and there are non-EMS trained physicians there who are like, why didn't you put this person on a backboard?
Right.
Because we still have that problem. I have trauma surgeons are like, you should have backboarded this person. I'm like, no, we shouldn't have.
I wonder if that's a thing in Pennsylvania. It seems to be, Ed. So I don't know.
It seems to be old Ed Zaffron has an issue in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
We'll call Kupus. We'll let Kupus know.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, we're just over an hour, so we're not doing too shabby for our first one getting together. Yeah. I don't know. Are you ready to do the final word?
Sure. The final word. What is that? I don't remember us talking about that.
Here is the final word with Mike and Ritu.
We're working out some kinks here.
No, what are you talking about? That was perfectly timed. I did it on purpose. Did you see my
Okay.
facial expression? It was a very good thing. Now, if you're listening to the audio version of this, you won't get the visual sort of love that's going on with that, but it still sounds pretty good. And really,
Sounds good.
what that means is that we're wrapping it up, buddy.
We're wrapping it up.
We're wrapping it up.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we covered lots of stuff.
I think we did. And we'll be back in 3 weeks. So that's cool.
Yeah. So again, for those of you that are just chiming in, we're gonna do our lives. Now, listen, we're not being like in stone with this. So don't freak out. But like most of the time, we're gonna try to do a live on the second Thursday of the month. Third day.
Yeah.
You were going to give me shit about that.
I
made
forgot
this
to
whole
give you
post-
shit about the fact that your first big tweet spelled Thursday wrong. And I texted you and I'm like, Thursday? And you're like, yeah, you told me it was on Thursday. I'm like, Thursday?
He let me struggle for 10 minutes. I'm going back looking at text going, you said right here that we were doing the live on Thursday. What, like, and so anyway, and so finally he says, look at the picture. And I did, and realized that I had spelt Thursday wrong. And I said, look, asshole.
That's a good.
Could have had it
medical
fixed.
relationship
I
right
could have
there.
had it. I could have had it fixed. I could have had it fixed in this amount of time, but instead 50 people saw third day and I look like an idiot.
Well, it's nice to have you twisted in the wind a little bit.
Yeah, I was twisted. Anyway, listen, I don't have a fancy graphic to get us out of here yet. But I will. And by the way, I just want to do a quick shout out to Rob Walker. So that was the other Rob you were thinking about. So if you haven't heard the intro and outro to the audio version of the podcast, go and find it. So podcast is out on all the things. You see the little graphic: Apple, TuneIn, iHeart, Stitcher, Spotify, wherever you listen, go find the EMS show. You'll see Jeff Bezos and Jesus on the picture, which is what somebody called that. And it is.
I think it was Means. I think it was Brandon Means.
Yeah, it was Brandon Means, and it's the funniest thing ever. But really, it's more like Mike Verkest and the brown Indian Benjamin Franklin, right? I mean, isn't that what?
That's what Veer called me, the Indian Benjamin Franklin.
Yeah. So anyway, well, I will get us out of here. Thank you guys for joining us on our very first live as the EMS show. It's awesome. This will be an audio version, so this will be out probably tomorrow, or I think it'll probably be out tomorrow. I'll be able to get it out of here. So big, bald, and brown. See, Jarvis just he loves that. He says he's been texting me that and messing with me. But I think Jeff Bezos and Jesus is better. I mean, I'm just saying.
Yeah,
I think it's funny. Anyway.
I do like. I like Bill. I like them both, but
I mean, it's
Bezos
fun.
and Jesus is good.
I mean, that's just a funny one.
I'm the Hindu Jesus with my Hindu children.
And by the way, I've got a small stock of the EMS show stickers. So at least for my local people, I'm going to give a handful to him, this guy, and I'm going to have a handful, and we'll see if we can get some sent out, because I want you to put them on your water bottles and your computers or whatever it is you do, or if you're Jarvis, a Pelican case. We want to get that out to people. Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So anyway, I thought about trying to get some t-shirts or whatever, but I don't know, whatever. We'll get that figured out.
We'll get it going.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you guys. Appreciate it. Great seeing you. Any last words from you, buddy?
Just great to be back.
It is good to be back. Share this. Let's get the word out. I want 100 people on here. Anyway, whatever. Okay. You guys all have a great night. Good seeing you, and we will see you on the next one. So you've got the EMS show. You guys have a great night, and we will see you later. Bye.
Good night.